This is the Real Life Runners Podcast, episode number 430. Today I get to sit down with Kelly Lyons, and we talk about a topic that a lot of people struggle with, but not a lot of people talk about, and that is binge eating. Especially as runners, we are often very conscious and try to be healthy. And for a lot of people, that leads to restriction, which unfortunately can lead a lot of runners into the cycle of restricting and binge eating. So today I talk to Kelly, who is an expert in this area, and she breaks down the 3 hidden patterns that can be the root causes of binge eating and how to overcome them. So if this is ever something that you have struggled with, stay tuned. All right, welcome to the podcast today. I'm so excited to have Kelly Lyons here with me. Hello, Kelly. How are you?
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I'm very excited to dig into this topic today because I think it's one that a lot of runners deal with, whether they like to admit it or not. Today, we're talking about binge eating and like emotional eating and all of those things. It is a more of a sensitive topic, I think. And so, can you just before we dive into the topic of the hour, give us a little bit of an idea about who you are, what you do, who do you help, and how you got into this line of work?
Yeah, sure. Thank you again, Angie, for so much for having me. Again, everyone, I'm so excited to be here. My name is Kelly Lyons, and I am a nutrition and eating psychology coach. And what I do is I help women stop binge eating, stop overeating so they can feel in control around food. And the way I do that is actually a little bit unconventional because a lot of times people who stop binge eating, they start another diet or they cut carbs or they work out 15 times a week thinking
Yeah.
they need more willpower. And in reality, that's the thing that's making their binging, their overeating, and food obsession worse. So what we actually do with the people in my world who struggle with this is we work on finding your root cause and then rewiring your brain so food no longer has this emotional, like obsessive hold over you. And just to get into how I came across this and starting helping others was not only my knowledge and my education, but also my experience. I struggled with binge eating for well over 12 years of my life. And it's so funny that you say you're like, what's not talked about a lot. It is 100% a sensitive topic, but it's also so isolating. The people who struggle, they struggle in silence because binge eating is it's a habit or a routine that's based around shame, guilt, judgment, self-loathe. So it's something that is so insanely secretive. And I think just us having this conversation is so important because a lot of people who are extremely active or athletes or runners, no matter your level of experience, so many people struggle with this. So I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, I am too. So you said you've struggled with this for 12 years. Could you give us a little bit of an insight into that journey of like how it started with you and then when you realized it was a problem? Like, what is
Yeah.
your experience here?
Yeah, absolutely. So mine was actually, it started my senior year in high school. And just to kind of, we don't need to go too deep, but what
Yeah.
happened was basically like, I just felt very lost my senior year of high school. I was an athlete and sports ended. I wasn't sure if I was playing in college. And I had so many friends that had like their life figured out, right? They had their major, they knew what college they were going to, they knew their next chapter, and I didn't. And usually when I was playing sports, I was getting home at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Now I was getting home at 2:40, 2:45 in the afternoon. No one was home because my parents were working and I was lost alone. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't turn. I had no one to really turn to. And I will never forget the first day I went into the cabinet. I had the chewy Chips Ahoy, like the red thin ones, and
Mhm.
I had a couple and I realized how good they tasted. It was almost like something lit up. Like, wow, I felt better eating that. And
Mhm.
I ate the entire freaking thing. And because I was now 17 and I had my license, I was like, as soon as I did it, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? My parents are going to be like, where the hell did the cookies go? So I drove out and I got another thing to replenish. Realized that I could like do this all the time. And immediately, this was something that was happening like every day as a form of comfort. And I gained naturally some weight. And I started Weight Watchers as what most people did back in the day, right? And I started Weight Watchers, and my first week, of course, type A, perfectionist, overachiever, I followed it perfectly. I didn't go over 1 point, and I lost 6 pounds in that first week. And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, I found the answer. I'm going to get my life back. I'm going to stop this, blah, blah, blah. And I weighed in, I went to my meeting, and then boom, I took my car and I went right to McDonald's to celebrate. And it was almost like this switch of, okay, I did everything perfect. I get to reward myself,
Mhm.
eat all day. And then that Sunday, I had to be perfect again. And in my mind, me having to be perfect again led to having to eat everything right then and there. And then I started going into some really dark rabbit holes of different diets, going like working out multiple times a day. Like I would take a class at 5 in the morning, I would go during lunch, and then I would go at night just to try to get my willpower and get myself back, thinking that would help this serious issue that I was going through and nobody knew about. And again, this was years and years of every diet, every rule book, every exercise, every high intensity, multiple times a day to try to get myself out of this cycle. But like I didn't recognize, of course, looking back now, everything I did just made everything worse and worse. It was like that snowball effect going down a hill, right? The snowball just got bigger and bigger as it was picking up speed. It was such a traumatic time that so many people didn't know about. And now looking back, recognizing, okay, let's actually try to heal from the inside out, because all I'm doing is I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Google, I'm buying the books, getting the recipes,
Mhm.
getting all this stuff, hiring the people to help me, and nothing was working. And I was like, okay, this started as an inside job. Let's fix it from an inside job. And that's how I was starting to slowly heal.
That's beautiful. And like you touch on so many things there in your own journey that I would love to highlight and dig a little bit deeper into. And one of those things is this idea that diet culture wants to tell us, which is you have to run to burn calories, you have to exercise to burn calories, you have to exercise to earn your food. Did you ever like go through that whole thing of using exercise or running as like a means to an end here?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And this was my experience from a while ago, but I will
Mm.
tell you, I want to say a couple months ago, somebody sent me a Noom ad. It was like one ice cream cone equals 1.5 miles of running.
I
And it's
hate
like,
those things.
but that was literally like a couple months ago. So it's
Oh
like, while
God.
my
It's still
experience,
there.
it's still
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
it's still in our faces. So
Yep.
100%. And you know what the sad thing is looking back? And it's funny. I'm like, I wonder why I'm not friends with these people anymore. My friendships, my friendships were created from hating our bodies. And
Mm.
we consoled each other in the sense of we would have pizza at night, we would talk about how disgusting our legs were and how many miles we had to run the next day and what
Mm.
time we were going to meet up for the gym to burn off what we were eating tonight.
Yeah.
I was not able to compartmentalize my exercise routine
Hmm.
and what I was eating. It immediately became, if I have this, then I have to run. If I
Hmm.
have this, then I have to go to the gym, not once, but twice. If I was really bad, guess what? My ass was getting there 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And not only was I injured all the time, but
Yeah.
I was absolutely miserable. And it was really actually heartbreaking because growing up playing sports my entire life, I loved it. I loved it
Mm.
so much. And all of a sudden, it became a source of punishment, a source of me being a failure, a source of me having to right all of my wrongs. Like I felt like I was like going into confession every time I would like behaviors,
Yeah.
right? And it immediately became this, I am a bad person from what I'm eating, and I have to make up for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
awful.
it is awful. And I think that like it is something that I think a lot of runners do share, whether they want to admit it or not. And whether that was the original reason that they got into running, a lot of people do end up finding themselves in that place at some point in time. I know that I have a similar story as well. I got into running just because I wanted to burn calories and lose weight and quote unquote look like a runner, right? Because runners have skinny bodies. That sounds like a
Yeah.
great idea. Let me just go do what they're doing. But let's go back to binge eating and just this topic of binge eating, because I really want to help our listeners understand the brain based reasons why we binge, right? Because this is something that you just fell into one day by the sounds of it. You came home from school, you had nothing else to do. You're like, oh, I found these cookies in the cabinet. But then it turned into this huge snowball like you experienced here. Why does that happen? What is going on in our brain that leads to binging and guilt and binging and guilt in this cycle that women find themselves in?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple things, but the first thing when you talked about wanting to start running for that reason, I will never forget my now husband. We were just dating at the time. We moved in together and we were in like this little condo complex. We had a grocery store right below us. And I'll never forget, he was asleep. I went downstairs. I got food. And like he woke up the next morning and he's, what are you talking about? And I was like, what do you mean? You texted me at 2 o'clock in the morning saying you just signed up for your first half marathon. And I was like, and like, of course, it was because I binged, I hated myself, and I needed that solution.
Yep.
And like that. So
and you needed your solution right then and there because like your brain was like grasping for it.
Oh, I'm going to fix it. Let's do half marathons near me. Let's just go run 13 miles. And of course,
great idea.
Yeah. But yeah, so before I get into the reasons why we actually do binge, because there are three really large umbrellas, I think really just talking about the cycle of binging and having to work off this food would be really beneficial for your listeners too.
Absolutely.
So I think of it as like a circle. So the first thing we want to do, so there's 5 steps, right? The first thing we want to do is we want to lose weight. So what do we do? Step 1 is we start a diet. And step 2 is when we start this diet, we restrict in some way, shape, or form, whether it's calories, certain macros, or like we can't have bread, or can't have the foods that we like, whatever it is, a form of restriction. And stage 3 is my favorite because like we think we can outsmart our bodies, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. Right? Our bodies are so much smarter than we are. So we start to have cravings and they get louder and louder, and then something tips them off, right? For me, it was my feeling of anxiety, feeling lonely, or we just can't handle our cravings anymore. And then we give in. And that's when we don't just have one cookie, we have the whole box of cookies, we eat everything. And immediately from that binge, we have the guilt, the shame, the self-loathing. Now, not only do I have to lose all the weight that I initially wanted, I have to lose the weight that I just binged, that I just got from binging. And what happens is we have extreme guilt. And the only way to get rid of that guilt is to work it off, make up for it, start another diet, and running more food rules. And then we start back at stage 1. So you are literally going in a circle around and around. And that's why so many people like they feel like they can't get out of it because they aren't able to cut that cord. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're trying to solve that problem with restriction, and your body can only be restricted for so long. And then your own body's natural instincts will kick in, which will then lead to more eating and more of the same thing.
We're trying to solve the problem with the exact thing that caused it. So there are a couple, like I mentioned, umbrellas that I like to call them as to why people binge. So this one is restriction driven. And that is when you are not giving your body the proper fuel and the proper nutrients and the proper macros and balanced plates, whatever it is, to fuel your body to the best of its ability. That is what happens when, like, a perfect example is we wake up, we have to be good, right? We have our egg white omelet. For lunch, we have our grilled chicken salad. Maybe we have an apple if we're lucky. And then it's like we get home from work and we are hangry, we are losing our minds, we are irritable, and all of a sudden something happens and we're like, why am I even bothering? Let's eat. And it's a biological response to the lack of food we are giving ourselves. And I know you're a big proponent of this, but like we need to have carbs.
Yeah. Yes.
Carbs.
Especially as runners.
Oh my gosh. And even just like thinking about it in that sense, when you are running and the amount of extra fuel you need before and after, and as you're the professional on this, during, depending if it's like a long endurance run,
right?
If you're not giving your body that, your body is going to get that food in one way or another. And it's usually in the form of cookies, chips, ice cream, pretzels. You're standing in front of the fridge, like shoveling shredded cheese. And immediately having that guilt and shame after.
Yeah.
And I feel
Shredded
like
cheese
I
like
talk
falling
about
all
that.
over the floor.
Literally,
Yeah.
like I'll never forget when I was living at home, my dad walked downstairs and I was just like eating cold pasta from the Tupperware. And people, your listeners, right? You may be like, okay, Kel, that's crazy. That isn't my level. You don't have to be like face first in the fridge, like Garfield, right? Like the orange cat, like shoveling the food. If you can still have a really terrible relationship with food and exercise,
Yeah.
if you're eating to have the perfect body and then running to work off what you just ate. It's a lot of people see it as black and white, but it's actually a very large spectrum of what it can look like for
Yeah,
people.
I agree. And I think that there's a lot of people that fall into this trap when they start signing up for longer races as well, like half marathons and marathons. A lot of people like you sign up for the like that first race to lose weight, right? They're like, I need to lose weight, so I need something to keep me motivated. If I sign up for this race, then I will have something on the calendar that will make me go out and do the thing. And so what they do is they are trying to train for a longer race, make their body do something harder than they've ever done before, and restricting their food because they think they're still in that calorie mentality, right? Of this is going to be great. I'm just going to keep eating the same amount or even less and then running more. I'm going to be burning like 1,000 extra calories a day. I'm going to be putting myself in a huge deficit and that's going to lead me to the body that I want. And in reality, it leads to complete burnout and failure because you're not giving your body what it needs. And like you said, your body's always going to stimulate you to get what you need. And a lot of people do end up binging and eating a lot. And they're like, I just don't understand why I have all of these sugar cravings. This is so weird. I tell them it's because you're not giving your body what it actually needs. And so it's going to give you those cravings for that fast sugar in order to get into your bloodstream to try to satisfy some of the deficits that you are creating.
100%. And
Yeah.
we talked about this when you were on my podcast. And oh my gosh, that was such an incredible conversation. But even though this was probably like at this point, like a month or two ago, but I was at the gym and it was just like one of those days I had a crazy morning. I didn't get to eat. I was doing back squats and I was like, my head was foggy. I was exhausted. My numbers were like really low. And then a week later, I had breakfast. I went to the gym to do the same back squats. I was able to add 25 more pounds,
Yeah.
do multiple more reps, and I just felt so much more fueled and energized, just so much better. And it's, oh, what's the difference? Like I ate, I had carbs, I had fat, I had
Mm-hmm.
protein before I did that strenuous exercise. And I'm sure
Yep.
it's very similar with running.
Absolutely. And I think that when we underfuel, when we don't give our body what we need because we're restricting, whether or not you're restricting, because I think that some people do it unconsciously. Some people restrict on purpose because they want to lose weight, they want to lose fat. And then I think that there's other people that just don't realize how much extra they need to eat, especially if they're training for a longer race, like a half or a full. It's a significant amount. Like you have to eat a lot more food to keep your body fueled, especially like you were saying before and after. Like your body needs that fuel right away. It needs the fuel to go out to run and then also needs to refuel right afterwards. And when we're restricting or we're not refueling that tank, it's going to just it messes with our hormones basically. Like the
Yeah.
science behind it, right? Is that it messes with our hormones and your body's going to be hungrier throughout the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, you're literally like trying to get gas from an empty tank,
Right.
100%. So that's like the restriction side of it. And
Yeah.
then the two other umbrellas that we really dive into is it's emotionally driven. It is whether it's you are trying to like cope, get comfort, you're trying to numb, avoid, not look at something. Because what happens is when we have really uncomfortable feelings, thoughts, or emotions, they almost like bubble up in our body, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so many of us were taught walk it off, don't talk about it, shut up and
Mm-hmm.
smile. And a lot of us don't know how to name, process, but most importantly, deal with our emotions without letting them like completely take over, right? So what happens is we don't want to feel these feelings. So what do? We shovel it down with food. It is easier for our brain to notice something tangible. So what I mean by that is like, rather than, okay, what were you feeling? What's going on in your body? What's the emotion? Rather than dealing with that, because nobody wants to talk about that stuff. Nobody wants to look at that. Your brain it would much rather say, wow, you're a failure yet again. You just ate 14 cookies when you weren't supposed to, because that is something you can actually see, feel, and like derive guilt from, rather than looking at what's going on underneath. So if you are someone who struggles with emotionally eating, or you notice you eat when you're lonely or sad or anxious, or you like eat at night when the house is asleep or whatever it is, the one thing I'm going to say is a great starting point is to just take a step back. And if you aren't hungry, ask yourself, okay, what is it that I want food to give me right now? Because usually it's comfort, happiness, joy, peace, getting rid of feelings of loneliness. Like I said before, we have to realize that food is not going to give us any of that. Yes, it will as we're eating, like for those first couple of minutes, but then as soon as we're done, we still have the same stress on top of the guilt of everything that just happened. So it's more coming at yourself with curiosity rather than anger, shame, and judgment, because those are the biggest emotions that drive binging. So you eat, you hate yourself, you're pissed at yourself, you're ashamed. You're just going to keep eating, because the next question is, why am I even bothering? Screw it. I'll just start over tomorrow. I already screwed up. Because so many of us who struggle with a not great relationship with food, we live in that all or nothing mentality. If I'm going to be bad, then I'm going to be really bad.
Yeah. And
So
it's
that's
also,
really,
I
yeah.
think it's also like your brain wanting to find evidence for why you feel this way. Like what, going back to what you were saying about, you have some sort of like guilt or anger or shame or something. And instead of digging in and trying to actually find the root cause of that, you're like, let me just eat. And now I can be upset at myself for eating. It's like this feedback loop that you're giving your brain evidence for why you deserve to feel this way, or why you feel this way, so you don't have to dig into some of the more uncomfortable stuff.
Correct. And the
Yeah.
uncomfortable stuff, guess what? It stays there. So nothing ever gets changed.
Yeah.
And yes, we've tried, as I mentioned, the diets, the keto, the Noom, the Weight Watchers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But again, that's nothing more than a Band-Aid.
Yep.
Because yes, we may start off losing weight, but then especially if you're an athlete and you're a runner, you are getting injured, you're burning out, you're not fueling yourself, you're binging. So it's in this like cycle that we just go around and around in.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to point out too is, yes, there are these uncomfortable emotions like guilt and shame and all these other things. But a lot of people that I've talked to also just eat out of boredom, because they don't, nothing else to do. And like, they don't realize that is emotional eating. Like boredom is a feeling that you're trying to just fill. And so you fill that with food.
Yes. And I love that you said that, because a lot of people say I eat when I'm bored, because I'm on the East Coast. I am near New York. Go hustle, hustle. People struggle to be bored. People struggle to rest.
Yes.
We always think that we have to go, must be productive. And even if we're deciding to rest, the only thing that's going on our mind is just like the scroll of the to-do list. I shouldn't be doing this. I have to do XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And again, we get those feelings of being bored and not being comfortable. It is okay to be bored, to have nothing to do, to rest and be okay with it. And the more you fight it, then we look for food. Yes, bored is such a big one.
Yeah. And it's so hard. And I think that's what's leading to more. I'm even noticing it in myself, like with the phones, like with the scrolling and things like that. Cause like I'm not binging on food, but my thumb is binging with these damn little not TikToks, but the reels. I don't really go on TikTok as much because I'm old, but
You save yourself. It's totally
it's fine. But it's those like small hits of dopamine that are keeping us in these habits that like, I'm literally sitting there. I should not be doing this. Why am I doing this right now? And I feel like that's the same feedback loop that's happening when it comes to eating.
100%. And Angie, I have an app actually that it's like you figure out what times you don't want to go on social, because like you use the screen time on Apple and it's dismissed for today. I have never not pressed the dismiss button. So this, I have it on the highest level. I can't even get in. There's no way. So I actually like it because it forced me to not do that. So
it locks you out.
Very similar.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What's the third reason that we binge?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about restriction driven, emotional driven, and then the next one is habit driven. I feel like looking back, once I started like picking it up, it did also become a habit. If you're sitting there listening, you're like, okay, I do all three, Believe me, they are all intertwined with each other.
Right.
Again, it's not black and white where it's, I do it because restriction, I do it because it's a habit.
Mm.
But what happens, so for example, when I think of like a habit driven, I think like people who eat at night, right? Person who has young kids or whatever, they clean the kitchen, they put the kids to bed, they sit on the couch, and immediately it's reality TV and ice cream or chips or whatever. And yes, that can start from restriction because if you're not eating enough, you are going to be hungry and hangry and all those wonderful things at night. But that habit also comes from continuously having that cue of kids are
Hmm.
asleep. I'm seeing this as like, finally, I can
Yep.
just sit down and relax. And as a
Yep.
mom, I know that feeling, right?
Yeah,
As you do
absolutely.
too, as you do too. And then it's like the habit of couch, relaxation, TV, those are your cues. And
Hmm.
immediately you want that reward of eating. If you're noticing it has become a habit over time, I think one of the things, if you use food as a form of self-care, we have to recognize we have to have different forms of self-care during the day. Because if you're not like feeling happy or enjoying what you're doing or having a little me time, of course, when you start eating, if that's the only thing that's truly making you happy, you're not going to want to be able to stop. Who would? So, really finding like little pockets of time, and it doesn't need to be this huge, spend a ton of money, go get like a $150 massage, go sit outside on your porch for 10 minutes,
Hmm.
somebody you love, just these little tiny things. For me, mine, I love taking like hot showers to the point my skin borderline melts off. Um, That's my thing at night. It calms me down. I get in my pajamas. But then, like in the morning, I make sure that I have a really nice, like iced coffee where I'm either sitting outside or catching up on sports radio because I love sports. And it's like the kids are in daycare. It's my time. But if I didn't have those two things, if the only thing that was making me happy was cookies, guess what? I would constantly be eating cookies. So that's one. And then another thing is to change your cue. So if you're someone sitting on the couch, you immediately want to eat, then maybe it can be as simple as one, go to bed, two, watch TV in a just as simple as going into a different room, right?
Mm.
While obviously it's a little bit more nuanced than that, those can be really good starting points if noticing it's becoming a habit.
Yeah, because we are creatures of habit, and the
Absolutely.
location alone is one of that can be a trigger for people.
100%. And our brain likes to be efficient, right?
Yes.
It wants to move as quickly as possible. It likes its routine. So, guess what? Good night, kids. Close the door, go downstairs. The
Hmm.
routine, bravo for me. Bravo on the couch, and then eating. So, it's just immediately like switching things up a little bit
Yeah.
to not have that cue go off and the alarm bells go off where it's up
Hmm.
time to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can change some of those habitual things that might
Mhm.
trigger the habit of binge eating essentially. What are
Yeah.
some other simple things that we can do to start to rewire some of these thought patterns around food and body image and restriction? I know that's a huge topic and a huge question, but like where do we start with all of this? If you
Yeah,
know that you're
absolutely.
suffering with binge eating, like like what would you tell me to do if I'm coming to you with this problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a ton of things, but the one thing I really want people to start with is practice noticing when you fall into the all or nothing mentality. Because
Mm.
what happens really with a lot of people when it comes to eating is like you start to eat, whether it's okay, and I always use cookies. I really need to have more variety in my food,
Cookies,
but
I mean, who wouldn't use cookies? I feel
I
like
know,
cookies
right?
is the right way to do this.
Right? You have one or two cookies, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm being bad. And immediately you're like, okay, I'm going to start over tomorrow. Your brain says, if I'm going to start over tomorrow,
Yeah.
you better guess I'm getting my freaking money's worth right now. And
Mm.
immediately you're going to eat all of them because you almost gave yourself like a time limit on when you can have these cookies.
Yeah.
Your brain doesn't know that you can actually drive to the store and go get more cookies tomorrow because you're telling
Hmm.
yourself you can't. So your brain thinks, oh, all the cookies in the world are gone. So something so simple as changing your thoughts around food in the simple sense of I can have this food anytime I want. So let's change it up. Let's think of pizza, right? If I'm pizza was always like a big thing for me, something I
Hmm.
always struggled with. If I'm having pizza with my family on a Saturday night, right? And immediately like I'm feeling full, I don't know if I should keep going. The guilt starts creeping in. I can feel my all or nothing mentality. Just recognizing, oh, wait, I can actually have pizza tomorrow. I can also, if I really wanted to, wake up Monday, drive first thing when I get up and go get some. And
Mhm.
when you recognize the abundance of food around you, it loses that, oh my gosh, I must eat everything now
Mhm.
mentality. So that's one of the things I would start with. I think the second one is just really become aware of the way you're speaking. And I'm obviously we put ourselves like we are our own worst critics. It's terrible how we speak to each other. So recognizing that and coming at it with more of a neutral stance, right? Nothing drives me more crazy when people say, "Oh, you just love your body and body positivity." I think 24/7 body positivity is honestly like complete garbage.
I'm with you on that for sure.
Come on. And
The roots of it are good, but the way that it's implemented is not.
the idea is
Yeah.
good. Is anyone walking around loving themselves 24/7? No. Something so simple as I may not love how I look today, but
Mm.
I deserve self-respect. I deserve to treat myself with kindness. And how many just start like looking around and how many times do you say, I'm being so bad today? Oh, I have to be good today. Oh, I messed up. I want you
Mhm.
to recognize the pressure language that you're putting on yourself. So, what I mean by that is like the pressure, if, oh, I'm being good today, you're putting pressure on yourself to continue being good. And you're going to get to a point where it's either restriction or somebody pisses you off or someone cuts you off in traffic and you can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So you fall off the deep end. Or we say, oh, I'm being bad today. Let's eat. Let's get
Yeah.
margaritas. I'm being bad.
Yeah. Or the cheat meal.
Yeah, if I'm going to be bad, guess what? If I have to be good tomorrow, I'm going to be really bad today. Just noticing when we're talking in very extremes and practice neutrality. Again, we could go, there's so much more, but like in the beginning, you have to start being aware
Yeah.
of the way you're thinking and the way you're acting. And we don't realize how much we waffle between both end of the extremes. The
Mhm.
way we think and the way we speak, it's not about the food that is driving us to have these eating patterns that we do.
Yeah. You mentioned the all or nothing mentality in there quite a few
Oh
times. Do you
yeah.
think that is really like one of the biggest core drivers of all of this?
I think a lot of people who struggle with binging and emotional eating,
Mhm.
they are overachievers, right? Type A, hardworking. And that is, if you look at your life,
Mhm.
usually you'll see the all or nothing mentality in different facets of your life.
Yeah. I bet that makes it so much harder too, right? Because you've been so successful in other areas and you're like, why can't I figure this area out?
100%.
Yeah.
Like it's the career, it's the fans, the
Mhm.
friend, it's the home, it's the beautiful like lawn in your front yard. But it's like, why don't I know how to eat? And it's because you're overachieving perfectionist. I have to do everything right. I have to be perfect and the zero moderation. When you aren't capable of having moderation, you're going to go off the deep end when it comes
Mhm.
to having that one cookie or going to that barbecue or going to vacation or with runners too. It's okay. I just had this, so I need to go run 5, 6, 7 miles, whatever it is. That is the all or nothing mentality in action, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people in our audience are in midlife, and I know you're not there yet. You're still in that wonderful young baby having life, part of your life, which is great. But one of the big things that women start to see in perimenopause and menopause are these hormonal shifts
Mhm.
and changes in in the way that their body holds on to weight. And a lot of times women that maybe had an okay relationship with their body and exercise and food, now all of a sudden they're doing these things and that used to work, and all of a sudden their body's not responding the same and their body's holding on to weight. And so many women fall back into those old patterns of restriction and let me just do more, let me just push harder that we've been conditioned with. So what would you say to kind of those women that had a healthier relationship with their body and with food, maybe this midlife period that we're going through, how can that maybe be an opportunity to create a healthier relationship with food moving forward?
Yeah, I love that. And while I am not there yet, many in my community, we have like thousands of members. I
Right.
have people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s
Yeah.
who no longer binge. And I think one of the biggest things is that we focus on is our hunger and fullness, right? Sometimes it comes down to so simply learning how your body feels when it's hungry and learning how it feels when it's full and practicing eating and not eating be like in between those two. And obviously, if you've struggled for a while, you're like, I don't even know how to tell when we feel full. It does take time, it does take patience, but also
Hmm.
too, making sure that your meals are balanced, making sure we're having protein,
Yeah.
realizing that carbs are not the enemy. And so many people, like I'll never forget, we have one woman in our community, she's going through menopause and she ended up losing like 55 pounds and no longer binging. And she was like, it's because like I learned how to fuel my body
Hmm.
without punishing it.
Yes.
And she would make sure that she had carbs with every meal, fat and protein.
Hmm.
When you're focusing on your hunger fullness, you can actually balance your blood sugar a lot easier rather than
Yes.
grazing and snacking and the not eating for 6 or 7 hours, which puts your blood sugar completely out of whack.
Exactly. And it's so interesting though too, and this kind of goes back to our emotional relationship with food, because when people come into my world, which I'm sure is like very similar to the ones in people in yours, and you're actually talking to them about nourishing their body and fueling their body and giving their body what they need, a lot of women get scared. Like there is
Oh
genuine fear that
my
comes
gosh.
up. Like I literally am telling you eat more, and they're like, but what if I gain weight? Like they're afraid to eat more. And it is a real fear.
It is such a real fear. And
Yeah.
sometimes this sounds so, sometimes I need to like just put up a mirror for them and I will ask them, like, is what you've been doing, has that worked? A
Yeah.
lot of people, it's like, if I give up tracking,
Mhm.
counting macros,
Yep.
then I will never stop eating.
Yep.
It's no, I don't want to say the word like your psychoticness and your obsession with those numbers, the things that have led you to do that. And it's so funny you say that, this fear. And
Mhm.
what we actually like to do is literal like habituation, like exposure therapy, right?
Yeah.
And letting people, when they're hungry, actually allow themselves to eat what they want, right?
Hmm.
Let's say you want pizza for lunch and or chicken cutlet sandwich, but of course you're getting the grilled chicken salad. What if you know you're hungry, you sit down for lunch, you get the 2 slices of pizza, you allow yourself to have it without guilt,
Hmm.
you are able to have the process of learning to listen to your body when you're full. Incredible things are going to happen. One, you are going to most likely eat less because you're able to recognize when you're full. You're not feeling guilty, so you're not eating more because you're fully allowing yourself to have it. And then between that meal and whenever your next one is, you're actually not thinking about food because you gave your brain the mental satisfaction rather than forcing a grilled chicken salad and then looking around all day for more food because your
Right.
brain, okay, that sucked. That's not what I want. I want to keep
Hmm.
eating. When you put yourself in those experiences, it's almost like you may have that fear until you actually see the process like unfolding right in front of you.
Yeah. When women in my world express that to me, I do something similar. I basically say, okay, exactly what you said. Has it been working? Right? Like with what you've been doing, has it been working? And then I get them to commit to a time period. I said, okay, what if we just
Mhm.
try this for 2 weeks? What if we just try this for a month and just see how you feel? You can always go back to the way
Yeah.
that you were doing things if you want to. But let's just commit to a time period where you're going to try to connect to your body, actually fuel yourself, allow yourself to have different things and see how you feel afterwards. Because once women start to allow themselves and give themselves that permission, they're never going back.
Yeah, it's such a like a completely different ball game, and you're like,
Yeah.
I cannot believe. And now, like, I'm sure your members do too. They love just like pointing out diet culture or like secretly
Mm.
laughing when their friends are just like commiserating how much they hate themselves. And it's everywhere, and you start to notice. You're like, wow, I've actually been brainwashed for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really wild when you look around and see how prevalent it is in so many aspects of our culture that we don't even realize.
Yeah. And it's funny, like I'm obviously as I'm pregnant right now, I'm around like 19, 20-ish weeks. And I've gotten a lot of DMs of, okay, how are you going to lose the baby weight? How are you eating? How are you? And I'm like, this is my third kid. I'm just going to continue to instill the tools that I teach every day and learn how to fuel my body and listen to my hunger
Hmm.
fullness. And I will go back to feeling my best because I'm not going to be killing myself in the gym,
Hmm.
tracking every single macro or
Yep.
whatever it may be. And people are like, wait, what?
Wait a second, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. Imagine you actually like your body and take care of it.
I know, right?
A totally different world. Kelly, this conversation has been so enlightening. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think no matter like what you're struggling with or how old you are or how long you've had skin in the game of like binging or a terrible relationship with food, you can 100% change. And a lot of people think you need the therapist and the new meal plans and the whatever. And while those are all well and good, change starts from within and it is 100% possible to change. A lot of people feel like we've been doomed or this is just how it is or we're always going to be like this. But there is a ripple effect to when you change and when you heal your relationship with food, when you heal your relationship with exercise, the ripple effect of the other aspects of your life that improve as well as the people you love.
Yeah.
So I just want you to recognize that no matter where you are, you can change, even if you feel like there is no way out right now.
Absolutely. And I think that really all starts with trust by the
Yeah.
sounds of it, right? Learning how to trust your body again, learning how to trust yourself around food, because I think that so many of us have been conditioned not to trust ourselves. We've been given these food rules, and you've been taught, even if you're hungry, don't eat because then you're going to go over your set amount of calories for the day. And so we've been taught to not trust ourselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love how you're like, what's the last thing? I'm like,
I
okay,
know.
well,
It's okay. It's okay. This is what happens sometimes.
Yes,
We're like,
with the
yeah.
trust,
And then I
like-
just opened up a huge topic. Yeah.
So we're going to talk for another hour and a half. No, but when it comes to the trust, like I like to remind people, like look around and whether you are a parent or a caregiver or children or you're a teacher, you like saw kids at the mall the other day. I like, have you ever seen kids have one bite of pizza and then put the pizza down or get ice cream and have the first scoop and be like, okay, mommy, I'm done. Or
Yeah.
no, thanks, I'm not hungry. I'll never forget when I was binging, I was like, how is my 6-year-old niece just like stopping eating with this pizza? I want you to recognize that you had that as well. You had those cues and they have never gone away. They have not gone anywhere. What happens is that volume in your body of that self-trust, that discernment, that being able to listen to your cues, it got smaller and that volume got turned down due to diet culture, people commenting on you getting seconds, your weight, aren't you supposed to run that off, or just any experience that you had growing up around food in your body. I want you to walk away with knowing that those cues and that discernment and that trust in yourself is still inside of you. Yeah, I love what you said about trusting your body.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing, like it drives me crazy. People are the first to shame their bodies, pinch their fat, put it down, berate it. And this is the only thing keeping you here. This is literally the only thing keeping you here.
Yeah. But people do it with running too, I think. And that's why these things are so intertwined, because you've been taught to ignore what your body's trying to tell you in running too. And this is the other thing where I try to help people. I'm like, no, that means you need to slow down. When you feel that way, you need to slow down. But they've been taught, no, I just have to keep pushing harder. That means I'm doing it right, because they have this no pain, no gain mentality. There's all of these different mentalities and things that we've been taught throughout the years that maybe apply to one situation, but don't apply well to others. And then we take them and we apply them to everything, all or nothing, no pain, no gain. Can be helpful sometimes, right? Like it's not like those things are always bad. They can be helpful at sometimes. We just have to be careful how we apply them. So,
100%. I love it.
Awesome. Kelly, thank you so much for this. Let our listeners know, where can they find you if they want to learn more and connect with you?
Yeah, of course. So you can find me on Instagram, Kelly L Wellness, and my podcast, which Dr. Angie was on as well. And it was interesting, the Food Freedom Society podcast. But yeah, send me a DM. Let us know what you liked and what your takeaway was with this episode. And Angie, thank you so much for having me. It's always so much fun hanging with you.
Absolutely. And of course, we will put all of those links in the show notes. So if you guys want to connect with Kelly, check out the show notes and send her a DM today.